Sometimes life makes you realize too late that the person closest to you is actually a pawn. Chosen ones, remember, those who are jealous of your light will not hesitate to use their own puppets to defeat you. But every game is broken one day. The great love you thought you had was part of a trap set against you. Now the truth is coming out. Don't just be a spectator, be a part of the story. With your support, we will become a giant family of 5,000 people. Subscribe now, turn on notifications, and join us. Because the winner in this story will always be those who stand for the truth. It's like stepping into your own backyard on what you thought was a sunny afternoon, only to discover the earth beneath your feet is shifting, and the roots of the trees, the very ones that gave you shade and comfort, have been quietly rearranged in the night. You look down and realize, this ground you thought was steady was being tunneled through all along. Beloved, life has a way of showing us that even the oldest oak can hide a web of secrets just beneath the soil. You thought you were safe among familiar faces, trusting in the sturdy branches of family and friendship. But, chosen one, there comes a time in every destiny when the sunlight exposes what's been working in the shadows. Maybe you recognize this feeling, the unsettling hush before a storm, when you sense, deep in your spirit, that what you knew was only half the story. It's as if every fond memory, every kind word spoken over a dinner table, was gently repackaged by unseen hands to hide something sharp inside. Think you've heard it all? Subscribe and let the Bible surprise you. Now you begin to see. Those sweet words you remembered, those embraces that felt like home, start to look different in the rearview mirror. The puzzle pieces of your life, once bright and comforting, rearrange themselves with edges you hadn't noticed. Suddenly, a laugh from an old friend sounds hollow. A gesture from a loved one feels calculated. The heart that once trusted so easily finds itself second-guessing, wondering if there was another script beneath the smiles, a silent plan running alongside every ordinary day. This is the moment in a chosen life where trust and truth collide. Maybe you've been there. Maybe you're there now, sitting in your kitchen with a cup of coffee that just doesn't taste right anymore, staring out the window as the wind rustles the leaves, and you wonder, who was truly for me? Who just wanted to know what I was made of, to see if they could use it for their own ends? It's a sacred kind of heartbreak, when the Spirit reveals that not every companion was sent by God. Some arrived as lessons, not blessings. You remember birthdays and reunions, holidays and inside jokes. But now, every celebration flickers in your memory with new meaning. It's as if the Lord Himself is highlighting old conversations, showing you where envy crouched behind a compliment, where competition hid inside a hug. The Spirit brings a gentle illumination, not to condemn you for trusting, but to set you free from the weight of deception. There are nights, beloved, when the past walks right into your dreams, and you wake up wondering how much was real, how much was rehearsed. The loneliness can settle on your chest like morning fog, thick and unmoving. But the Father says, "Take heart, my child. What was meant for evil, I will use for your good." That's the beauty of the chosen ones. What tries to bury you, God will use to plant you. The world may see you as wounded, but heaven sees you as wise. You are not the sum total of other people's schemes. You are the harvest of every tear sown in secret, every prayer whispered when you thought no one was listening. God keeps the receipts for every act done against His beloved. The day comes when the secrets buried beneath your feet become the very fertilizer for your next season of growth. When you realize betrayal has been working in your garden, it can make you question everything: your judgment, your value, even your purpose. But that's when grace shows up like a gentle rain. The Lord reminds you, "My ways are not your ways. My plans are higher, bigger, and filled with hope." You begin to see, you were never alone in the darkness. The Spirit was right there, sifting through every lie, every manipulation, every scheme that tried to block your blessing. It may take time to heal, to separate what was genuine from what was a game. Don't rush the process. Let God do the sorting. While you sit in your quiet moments, ask Him to shine His light on your history, to reveal where His hand has already been at work protecting you. That uneasy feeling in your gut, that sudden urge to call a friend, that door that shut in your face? All were signs of divine orchestration, ways the Lord redirected you away from harm. Sometimes, the pain of waking up to these truths feels like a storm that won't pass. Yet, chosen one, storms water the earth. Without the rain, there is no new growth. Your story isn't defined by what others plotted, but by what you chose to do with the truth once it was revealed. The same sun that scorched your heart now brings forth the buds of a new season. Remember, every trial is training for greater things. The heaviness you feel now is not a tomb, but a womb. God is growing you through adversity. While some plotted your downfall, heaven plotted your comeback. It's the paradox of faith. The more the world tries to bury you, the deeper your roots go, the stronger your foundation becomes. Don't let bitterness take root where God wants to plant resilience. The hands that tried to tangle your story cannot pull up what God Himself has sown. You are not lost, you are being led. And every plot, every whisper, every shadow, God will turn it all for your good. You may not understand it now, but trust, there is a tapestry being woven, and when you finally see the full pattern, you'll thank God for every broken thread. So lift your head, chosen one. Let the past be your teacher, not your warden. Lean into the wisdom that only comes from surviving what was meant to destroy you. Open your hands, let go of what you cannot change, and watch the Lord restore what was stolen. You are still standing, not by accident, but by divine appointment. Your story is not over. In fact, the most beautiful chapters are just beginning, written by the one who knows you by name and calls you worthy. Imagine walking into a room where the lamps seem to shine a little brighter just because you stepped through the door. But, my friend, not every light that flickers in your life is there to guide you home. Some are lanterns set out by those trying to keep you wandering in circles. That's how it is for the chosen ones. The path is never as simple as it looks, and sometimes, the very people you thought were walking beside you were busy planting detour signs when you weren't looking. All along, someone was moving like a shadow at the edge of your story, as quiet as a gentle breeze that turns into a draft you can't quite shut out. This person didn't just stumble into your life. They studied you the way a gardener learns the pattern of the sun and the soil, always watching for the right moment to plant their own intentions. They watched you grow, counted every new leaf and bloom, but instead of celebrating your strength, they waited for the season when they could bend your branches their way. Let's be honest, most folks don't see it coming. You're living your life, tending to your family, building dreams, believing the best about the people close to you. Meanwhile, someone else is drawing a map of your habits and your heart, keeping track of your joys and your pain. It's like you're walking across a field, and every step you take is being marked by someone hiding behind the tall grass, waiting for the moment they can call out your name and steer you in a direction you never intended to go. And chosen one, you need to know, the enemy never attacks what isn't valuable. There's a reason why the gold is hidden deep in the mountain and why pearls are tucked inside shells. Your life has always been a treasure worth guarding. So when this person set out to shape your world, it wasn't a random act. It was a mission. They saw your potential before you even did. That's why they worked behind closed doors, whispering into the ears of people you trusted, shaping relationships like a potter at the wheel. They didn't just pick any friend, any partner, any confidant. No, they selected people who had a piece of your heart. They sought out the ones who could get close enough to see your tears, hear your laughter, walk into your kitchen without knocking. They knew that if they could turn one of those people into a willing participant, they could pull the strings from a distance. It was never about the surface, the Sunday morning smiles, the Christmas cards, the warm handshakes. It was always about influence. They were sowing seeds where you least expected, watering doubt in gardens where you only ever meant to grow trust. Looking back, you start to see the pattern. The timing of certain introductions, the way an old friend started acting strange just when you needed them most, the new voice that showed up in your circle right as your breakthrough was coming. My friend, that wasn't chance, that was choreography. The architect of confusion worked overtime to connect the dots in ways you wouldn't notice until you stood back and saw the whole picture. You thought you were hosting a backyard barbecue, but someone else was rearranging the chairs, deciding who sat where and what stories would be told. Don't beat yourself up for missing the signs. The best of us have been there, believing that love could never be twisted, that loyalty couldn't be bought or sold. But some folks become experts at blending in, at making their intentions sound like concern, at slipping into your confidence while all the while collecting the very information that could be used to sideline your destiny. Here's what's powerful, chosen one, God saw it all. Every quiet move, every whispered scheme, every night you spent wondering why things felt just a little off. And even when it looked like the plan was succeeding, even when it felt like your closest friends were being pulled away or your best intentions were misunderstood, God was building a record. The master gardener kept the blueprints, knowing just when to prune, just when to water, just when to let the wind clear out the dead branches. Every story hides a secret. Subscribe and become a seeker with us. See, the truth is, while this manipulator was busy connecting invisible threads, heaven was weaving a covering around you, one you couldn't always feel but that never let you fall through the cracks. Every betrayal became a lesson. Every detour became an opportunity to grow deeper roots. Where the world tried to tangle you up, God made sure you had the strength to break free. You might wonder, why did I have to go through all that? Why did people I loved become tools for someone else's plan? Hear this, diamonds are only made under pressure, and the brightest stars are born out of darkness. What the enemy meant for your demise, God allowed for your development. The skills you gained, the discernment you sharpened, the strength you built, it all became part of your calling, part of your unique testimony. So don't waste another day wishing the past was different. Don't mourn the chapters where you were misunderstood or misused. Those were the very pages God used to write your promotion. The hands that tried to manipulate your journey only served to push you closer to your purpose. What was meant to set a trap has become the launching pad for your next season. Now you walk with new wisdom. You recognize when someone is moving with love and when someone is operating from hidden motives. You know how to listen for God's voice over the noise of human agendas. You are no longer easy prey. You are anointed, appointed, and protected by a purpose that can't be derailed by any scheme. Your story, chosen one, is not about the webs others spun in the background. It's about the way you kept walking forward, even when you didn't know who was truly with you. It's about the faith that carried you through a landscape full of shadows, about the light inside you that refused to go out. Every manipulation, every twisted relationship, every heartbreak, they all testify that you are resilient, that your destiny was never in human hands. So keep your head up. Keep moving forward. Remember, no architect of chaos can outbuild the creator of the universe. The plot against you was only ever a backdrop for God's masterpiece. And the next time you walk into a room, let your heart know. If the light seems a little brighter, it's because you carry the sunrise within you. Life is a lot like a river winding through quiet countryside, beloved. Sometimes, you stand on the bank as a child, thinking the water is just meant for skipping stones and making wishes. But as you grow, you realize there are currents beneath the surface, shaping the land in ways you can't always see. And in every chosen life, there are those who toss their own stones in the stream, hoping to change its course for their benefit, not yours. From the earliest days, there was someone close, a person who wore the mask of a shepherd, always guiding, always watching. On the outside, they smiled and offered comfort, but deep in their spirit, they nursed a thirst for control that colored everything they did. Their presence in your life felt like a shade tree on a hot day, but slowly, you learned that some branches block the sun so nothing else can grow underneath. It started subtly, as it always does. At every family meal, at every birthday party, when everyone else was laughing and telling old stories, this person sat quietly, eyes sharp, taking mental notes of who got the biggest piece of cake and who got the most applause. They would watch your small victories and store them up, not as memories to cherish, but as measurements of what needed to be trimmed back. It's a strange thing, isn't it? To discover that someone who should have been your greatest ally was secretly counting your blessings, as if they were losses in their own ledger. Their compliments came like a drizzle after a drought, just enough to keep you close, but never enough to let you bloom. They pruned your dreams, disguised as practical advice, so you'd never reach too high and cast a shadow they couldn't outrun. And all the while, the Lord saw it. He watched as the one meant to protect you kept planting little doubts among your roots. You'd show up with a new accomplishment, and instead of a proud embrace, you'd get a careful look, a nod, a small smile, maybe a word of praise that felt like it had been pre-approved by a committee you never got to meet. They'd say, Well, let's not get ahead of ourselves, as if ambition was a weed, not a flower. For some, it was enough to make you question your own joy. You'd look in the mirror after a hard-won success and wonder if it was really worth celebrating. You'd turn down your own light so someone else wouldn't feel left out of the sun. And yet, inside, the spirit kept whispering that you were made for more, that your life had a river meant to run wild and free, not to be dammed up by another's insecurity. You see, the ones who fear your rise are always the first to plant seeds of caution and control. They cloak their intentions in tradition, in concern, in the language of family. But God knows the heart. He knows when someone is using smiles as camouflage, when behind every hug is a calculation, and when every gentle correction is a subtle way to keep you in your place. Maybe you remember the way they changed the subject when you shared a new dream, or how they give you a chore just when it was your turn to shine. Maybe they'd remind you of your past mistakes at every holiday, making sure your hope never grew too tall. They weren't satisfied to lead by example. They wanted to build a fence around your destiny, so you'd never venture beyond their control. Yet here's the miracle: true purpose can't be fenced in forever. A calling from God breaks through every barrier, just like a seed will find a crack in the concrete and push its way toward the light. The spirit inside you is greater than any plan cooked up in secret. The gifts you carry are not on loan from another, they're heaven's investment in your future, and no human hand can call that debt due. As you look back now, you see it clearer than ever. The advice that left you doubting your worth, the guidance that quietly boxed in your vision, the applause that never quite reached your soul, these were the tools of someone who could not stand to see you free. But the Lord, in His kindness, allowed even those moments to teach you. He used every limitation, every boundary, every sigh of disappointment to build in you a resilience that no one can take away. So, beloved, don't waste energy resenting those who tried to hold you back. Their tactics may have worked for a while, but they underestimated the river God placed inside you. He made you to carve your own path, to overflow any banks meant to contain you. Where manipulation wanted to slow you down, the Spirit gave you wisdom to see through the fog. Where jealousy tried to poison the well, grace gave you fresh water. You are not a product of someone else's plan. You are not bound by the insecurity or envy of another soul. Every time they tried to clip your wings, heaven grew you a stronger set. Every time they wrote your name in the margins, God wrote it in the book of life. Let this be your testimony. You grew in places you weren't supposed to survive. You flourished even when the soil was stingy and the weather was cold. You learned to draw your strength not from borrowed approval, but from the well of living water inside you. And the very person who wanted to oversee your story has become a mere footnote to your victory. So hold your head high. The days of quiet calculation and veiled discouragement are over. You're walking in a new confidence now, knowing that no mask, no secret plan, no shade tree planted to slow your growth can stand against what God has spoken over your life. The river is running strong, and it's carrying you exactly where you're meant to be, free, whole, and thriving with not a single regret about how you got here. As your awareness flourished, unknown observers chronicled your journey, filling private records with intricate observations and plans as elaborate as the blueprints of an inventor desperate to contain a force beyond their understanding. When conventional strategies failed, they crossed into territories of intent and influence rarely acknowledged, weaving attempts to bend reality and loyalty through strange rituals and unseen threads. Their scheme relied on one essential deception: persuading someone with love in their heart that harm was a twisted act of care. This was not their first experiment with turning affection into a weapon, but with every misstep in the past, their methods became more subtle, more patient, until the opportunity to act emerged in the most unguarded relationship. Fragments of phone conversations and cryptic remarks begin to haunt those entangled in this drama, each echo hinting at a reality meticulously shaped by someone who barely belonged in the inner circle, yet managed to insert themselves into the space between hearts. Carefully timed words and veiled suggestions infiltrated moments of conflict, coloring perceptions and steering decisions in ways that only now come into focus. But all the meticulous plotting could not account for the pulse of something deeper, an unbreakable connection to a source of strength beyond human manipulation. Each act of harm attempted was silently noted by powers indifferent to mortal schemes. The one targeted by these efforts was held by currents that swirled far above the reach of any individual's intent, protected by a greater alignment no shadow could disrupt. While hidden motives multiplied in the background, unseen guardians quietly took stock, accumulating a record not for retribution, but to tip the scales of consequence. When the moment of reckoning arrived, the script did not play out as written. A flicker of genuine emotion, familiar, untainted, and unmistakable, cut through the haze, halting the plan and returning agency to the manipulated. What was meant to be the end became a turning point. This transformation left its mark. The mind now sorts through a labyrinth of recollections, unsure which impulses were real and which were woven in by outside hands. Jealousy, frustration, even fleeting desires, all are re-examined under the light of this new understanding, as their origins are traced back to sources far more sinister than once imagined. As the truth spreads, others who once turned away or became inexplicably distant are seen in a new light. Patterns of withdrawal and betrayal can be traced to the same hand, the same guiding influence. Those who tried to distort the natural order now find the world shifting around them, relationships unraveling, and the doors to opportunity closing one by one as old energies recoil from abuse. Where once there was ease, obstacles now appear. Illnesses emerge, fortunes fade, and the once charismatic instigator finds themselves isolated, as those closest to them recognize the cycle of manipulation and choose a different path. The most shattering pain comes not from outside judgment, but from seeing the loss of genuine bonds, children and confidants stepping back, unwilling to bear the cost of someone else's ambitions. Can you spot the lesson in every legend? Subscribe and join the search. And through it all, the one who was marked for downfall rises steadily, each setback transformed into a lesson, every wound becoming a badge of growth. Accolades and opportunities, once diverted, now return multiplied, and the attempts to overshadow their gifts only serve to amplify them for a wider audience. Yet the greatest trial lies in the heart of the one who was manipulated into being a weapon. They now stand at a crossroads, filled with regret for actions nearly taken, and an aching awareness of what was lost in the process. Redemption begins with steps toward healing, new routines, renewed faith, the search for ways to unlearn what was planted deep within. Attempts to regain lost ground become futile, former allies sense the tide turning and abandon old loyalties, as the reality of the plot becomes undeniable. What was intended as a final blow instead becomes the crucible for awakening, forging resilience where only vulnerability was expected. Adversity, once seen as a threat, becomes the force that tempers and sharpens, each challenge unlocking hidden strengths. Abilities once stifled awaken with new power, insight grows keener, and the family dynamic is transformed as the pattern of manipulation is revealed for all to see. Some embrace the truth and offer reconciliation. Others resist, drawing lines that clarify who is truly aligned with light. Emergence from this crucible gives birth to a new understanding of love and connection, one not easily broken or manipulated. While the shape of relationships changes, the depth of the bond remains, woven now from shared ordeal and the hard-won clarity of true awakening. In the aftermath, the lessons linger, not as scars, but as living testimony to the endurance of spirit and the inexhaustible nature of genuine purpose. What was once a campaign to destroy is revealed as the unlikely engine of elevation, and the light that was meant to be extinguished now shines too bright to be ignored. The narrative ends not in bitterness, but in transformation, as the echo of 1,000 unseen battles finally fades into the certainty of a path lit from within.